What is happening, AJ Gamer Dude here, and I am going to be talking about finally the Attack on Titan finale has happened, and I am going to pretty much be doing like the last two sort of specials that have released. One which was in the March of 2023, and of course the one that aired about just under a week ago. Though I suppose it'll be over a week ago by the time I actually upload this video. So that's actually going to date the video a little bit. But essentially, I'm going to be more so talking about the sort of final hour and a half long episode. Though I think it was maybe like hour 27-ish. And just sort of the ending and like what I'm going to put it as on my anime list. Because the thing is that I've had a very tumultuous history with Attack on Titan. By the time I got to season 1, it was already overhyped, and then I think season 2 I watched while it was airing, thought that it wasn't good at all. So I thought season 1 was okay, I thought season 2 was and maybe even bad to an extent, and then I just didn't follow from there. And then with the announcement of Attack on Titan the final season, I was like, okay, started from the beginning, rewatched season 1, still thought it was okay. Rewatched season 2, thought that was not good. Watched through season 3, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 was like, okay. Part 2, that's when it started getting good. And then we had final season part 1, which was probably the final season part 1 was the best for me. And then part 2, which was okay of the final season. And now we're here sort of in like the third. So part 3, part 1, I thought was okay as well. The thing is that I never really thought about this show as actually being good. That's where sort of my history kind of ends with this series, is I've been struggling to find it to be good or great. I can understand that it is incredibly popular, but I've struggled to decide where it falls for me personally. And I'll kind of explain why, but let's just kind of jump into this final episode, so I won't be going into any sort of spoilers. That's first and foremost going to be the main thing. But I'll just kind of like shout out the good that this does, and that is, I like the animation. I like that the fights are pretty solid to an extent. And the way in which it ended, it felt beautiful, and it felt like it ended on a note that it kind of went down. And honestly, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. And honestly, for the journey and for the way in which it ended, I was there for it. I was certainly there for it. The ending wasn't disappointing. And now I'm going to talk about pretty much what I didn't like about the sort of final hour and a half of the show, and that is literally everything else. So everything else about the show was disappointing. The reason why I said that the fighting in the show was, or in this particular final, was fun to an extent, was only because I started falling asleep halfway through, and throughout this final episode, I think maybe every 20 to 30 minutes, somewhere in between, I was checking how much longer of this finale do I actually have left. And that's not good, because if you end up actually checking periodically how much time you have left of a episode, it means you're getting bored. And the release structure for this final part of this like all of part 3 of the final season, so final season part 3 part 1, which released in March, and final season part 3 part 2, which released here in like November. Like, this release structure was so completely out of whack that the hype was completely lost. Though in saying that, for myself personally, I can't see that I've had enough like hype to begin with to keep it going for this show. The fact that it took a decade to tell a relatively okay story. Yeah, and I say relatively okay because okay, so essentially what this comes down to is, it only for me started getting good around season 3 part 2 or final season part 1. And the thing is, People can tell you it's gonna get good, it's gonna get good, it's gonna get good over time. I'm not gonna say that the time required for it to be good is going to be the death sentence of most franchises, series, or shows. But the thing is, you need to make the payoff actually worth the wait in order to actually be able to get an overall solid product out of it. And looking at, say, something like Steins Gate, for example, which is so much better than Attack on Titan in every sense of the word. That is a single 24 episode season of a show. 12 episode build up, 12 episode payoff. What more do I need to say? The first half is just build up, and people say that that's boring. But the thing is that this show, Attack on Titan, Season 1 was all build up, Season 2 was all world building and build up, Season 3 was world building and further build up. You can only build up so much, but the payoff needs to be worth the build up. Otherwise, if it isn't, then you will be left disappointed and walking away kind of like, what was the point of me like going through all of that build up? Yes, the world building is nice and important, but at the end of the day, I think that Ishizoku Reviews does exceptionally good world building. Better than, well, as good as Attack on Titan, but the payoff just wasn't worth it. The amount of payoff is not just when the build up ends, it's everything that follows that should be the payoff, not just the ending. And while I was happy with the ending, I just think that this final last 2 episodes were fine. And so that's what is categorized in my anime list as these like last 2 episodes being an hour and 1 minute, I think, and an hour and 20 minutes. So all in all, I think that the Attack on Titan final season Kankatsuin, the final chapters or the last 2 episodes of the show are okay. That's why in my anime list, I'm going to be throwing it like at a 6 out of 10. Attack on Titan could have been so much more. It could have been so much better. And I'm disappointed that it isn't. I am kind of disappointed that it had to take so much world building and so much build up to get to a point where it just led to disappointment. If you're going to build something up, if you're going to be doing that build up, make sure that whatever the payoff is going to be when the build up ends, for the payoff to be worth it. Because the payoff in, say, something like Steins Gate is like so far removed from what anyone could ever have thought would happen that it feels insane to think about. Yeah. I honestly don't know what to say. I feel like the perfect comparison to like what Attack on Titan tried and failed to do, Steins Gate managed to do so much better a long time ago. The visual novel. I played the visual novel first before watching the anime adapted version. Like, it's just the perfect dichotomy between how to do it well and how to do it poorly, because I didn't need to go through multiple seasons of build up to get to what made Steins Gate great. It was maybe like half a season, or if you wanted to think about it in a 12 episode structure, the first 12 episodes again was the build up. So 1 season of build up, 1 season of payoff, and ultimately that's kind of what led us to the end. Was the ending the greatest thing ever? No, not really. But even then, the payoff was so much more worth it that you could forgive the ending for the way in which it did. In saying that the visual novel's got multiple endings, so I digress. But again, I feel like I'm talking way more praise about Steins Gate and how much I'm just kind of crapping on Attack on Titan for pretty much the same reason. But that's just kind of like a good way of looking at it. In any case, summary is that I'm giving Attack on Titan, the final chapters, a 6 out of 10 on my anime list, and I'm going to be chucking that up on there. Let me know what you guys thought about everything in the comments below. Try to keep it spoiler free as best as you can, though you know that's not really going to happen no matter how much you try to tell people. Like the video if you liked my sort of thoughts, comparisons between Attack on Titan and Steins Gate, and subscribe to the channel because I'm trying to get to 100 subs by the end of the year. And it'll also push out my videos to more people. But with all that said and done, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.